Welcome back. Let me tell you a story. For centuries, colonialists traveled. They conquered the world. They forcefully enforced their knowledge, their culture, their way of life into the world. Religion was often used as an ideological control mechanism. In many instances, native beliefs and faith systems were associated with darkness, animal and human sacrifices, and out of date with modern times, or just simply barbaric. Many religions were often misunderstood. They were labeled as voodoo or witchcraft, even up until today. In other parts of the world, colonization of indigenous peoples relied on harsh forms of physical control, such as torture, but also ideological control of the mind. The belief was that if religion was removed, society would descend into chaos. University of Johannesburg recently held a series of lectures and debates on the issue of decolonizing religion. Fascinating topic. Now, to tell us more, joining us in studio is the head of religion department at the University of Johannesburg, UJ, Professor Farid Esack, as well as a PhD candidate in religious studies, Dr. Alex Abbasi. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you and welcome.
Thank you very much. Good to be with you.
Now, this sounds absolutely fantastic. Now, to both of you, what are the aims and objectives of these series of lectures and debates that were held on the issues of decolonizing religion?
Well, decolonizing has become a big buzzword in South Africa, particularly associated with the fees must fall. Very many universities are embracing it, sometimes I think in too big of a hurry, because doesn't mean that they haven't really thought through it. Our department, the Department of Religion Studies, we have been trying to create a niche in our department, an international niche for the study of religion, Islam, religion in general, Islam specifically, and decoloniality for the last 4 years. And so it's both, in some ways, riding on the bandwagon of the current fervor amongst South African students, but it's also recognizing the legitimacy of the key ideas behind it, that many of our society's institutions, our society's structures, our society's religions, we haven't really worked through the damage that colonialism has wreaked upon us. And so we talk about a post-apartheid South Africa as if the problem started in 1948. No, the problem started much longer with the question of dispossession, but it wasn't just the dispossession of the land, it was also the dispossession of people's religions, of their cultures, of their values. A quick one. Just last week, there was a mudslinging match in Parliament between an EFF member and a Democratic Alliance member. And the EFF member, or this way, that I'm not sure who started it first, called the other one a kafir.
Kafir.
And then there was a whole argument because some other guys then stood up and said, he said he was a kafir. So there was a whole argument, who was a racist, who wasn't a racist. But the word kafir comes from the Arabic word a rejecter of faith. And this is the word that white people gave to black people in South Africa, because when they came here, black people, the indigenous people, the Khoisan, they didn't have the white people's religion. And therefore, they didn't have any religion. Therefore, they were all kafir. They were unbelievers. Instead of recognizing the indigenous. And so there's a relationship between the Arabic word and kafir and the local dirty word that we throw at black people, kafir. But both of them mean the same. Your beliefs count for nothing. I am chosen and you are frozen.
Now, instead of you answering that question, Dr. Abbasi, let me come back to the issue of unpacking.
Alex is on his way to becoming a doctor. He's a PhD candidate.
So, to understand the concept of the idealization of religion, or the decolonization of religion, just explain that and unpack this for us.
Sure. So, I mean, firstly, if we're going to decolonize something, the thing we are decolonizing is something that's still worthy. It's something we still want to keep. So, for example, we wouldn't say decolonizing white supremacy.
Yes.
We need to annihilate white supremacy. We wouldn't say decolonizing capitalist exploitation. I think most people would disagree with capitalist exploitation. We wouldn't say decolonizing Zionism. People reject Zionism and the oppression of Palestinian people. So to decolonize religion means that religion still has a role to play in society and in public life. So Europe has a specific relation to religion, and through colonialism, it impressed that view of religion onto the world. So just because Europe had a certain history where they had wars with different Christian sects, and all of a sudden religion becomes only this privatized thing you do on Sunday, instead of something that can inform many other aspects of life, that doesn't mean other people or even Europeans themselves have to agree with that. For many people in the global south, for many people of color across the world, religion plays a very, very important role in everyday life, whether that's informing society, informing politics, informing family relations, gender, and so forth. So to decolonize religion means to reject what was imposed on the third world, so to speak, by colonizers, and to claim faith, to reclaim indigenous faith, but also to do so in a critical way.
Yes. Does the series suggest, or the debate suggest, Professor, that we are still colonized in a democratic South Africa?
Absolutely. You see, we have these myths that there was a particular date on which things started, and then in 1994 there was a very, very bad king until then. In 1994 a good king came along and he slayed the bad king, and abracadabra, all of us lived happily ever after. Colonialist mindsets exist in our daily lives. I mean, let me give you an example. It reflects poorly on our own department. Last year we had a series of 8 lectures on religion and philosophy. Every single lecturer discussed in that department was a white European male. It isn't possible to get anywhere in the academy if you cannot cite Foucault, if you cannot cite Heidegger, if you cannot cite Gadamer. All of these are white males. Do we not have African philosophers? Do we not have philosophers like Iqbal from India? Do we not have Chinese philosophers? Do we not have South African philosophers? Is white Western Europe still the direction, the Jerusalem, the Mecca for all of our intellectual and our cultural thinkings? You are a nobody in South Africa today, for example, if you do not speak English well. If you speak Xhosa, you speak isiZulu, you speak any other language, tough. You are stupid, you are ignorant, you are looked down upon. And all of this is manifestations of how coloniality still controls our mindsets, our institutions, and our lives.
But why discuss it now, Alex? Because the point is that we are so many years into democracy, 22 years, and as the doctor indicated, that we are still colonized. Why discuss it now and not earlier?
I don't know if it's the right question. Maybe we should ask why not. I'm coming from the context of the U.S. So supposedly Obama becomes president.
Yes.
Okay, we have a black president in office now, and we live in a post-racial society. But have we reached that moment? Has racism ended? I think the world has seen with the Black Lives Matters movement that black people and other people of color in the U.S. face police brutality, face racism on a systemic and individual level on a daily basis. So when we talk about decolonizing religion, okay, we have a colonized religion, a colonized notion. No, but we also have the right and we have the ability to go back to our sources and fix the problems of today with our indigenous beliefs.
What came out of the series, Professor, was there a feeling that religion is still a control mechanism being used in the world today or not?
Absolutely. Both by both, I mean, and regrettably, even from some of the more progressive, some of the more left-wing sections of religion, but in large parts of the world, you look at the Arab countries, for example, you've got a grand mufti in every city. So Sisi in Egypt says, right turn. The mufti of Al-Azhar, the big leader in the Sunni world, he says, right turn. In the United States of America, you can see the hold that the religious right wing have over the imaginations of people. Many in South Africa, you run to the archbishop. you run to the chief rabbi. And these people are people in power,
Yes.
and they are connected to other power and often stifling the voices of other tendencies inside there. And so the reality is this, that the decolonialization of religion also asks that theological power and the power to interpret scriptures, the power to be a voice and an influence in your institution, that also belongs to ordinary believers. So in the same way that in South Africa, how do you remove power from white people and empower the masses? Decolonialism also asks, how do you remove power from religion as a weapon to oppress other people and to marginalize other people and put it back in the hands of ordinary believers?
We've run out of time, but we need a lot more time to discuss this. But is there an idea, or is the idea perhaps of decolonizing the mind and decolonizing religion for that matter, about going back to our roots, going back to what we revive our native religions for that matter, or not?
I mean, look, the authenticity of people's own experiences and histories and cultures and heritages must never be denied. When we talk about change in, say, gender attitudes, change in people of different sexual orientation, changes in modernity, changes in how do you get to recognize women also as chiefs, all of those changes takes on board the newer insights that are the collective heritage also of humankind. There's always been African women chiefs. So it's not a question of destroying the indigenous, but it's also respecting the indigenous and finding ways of negotiating with the indigenous rather than simply imposing a Western, English, Northern coloniality and demanding that all indigenous cultures must be eliminated and only one kind of these things get destroyed. It's like saying, look, all local cuisines are destroyed. There is only one God in front of you, and that is the God of McDonald's. If you don't eat McDonald's fast food, you remain a barbarian. Decoloniality of religions is saying, let's revive local cuisine, but also let's take on board the international, the universal experiences of humankind and see how we can enrich our cuisine through that.
Gentlemen, that's where we got to leave it. Thank you so much for joining me here in studio.
Thank you so much for having us over.
That was the head of the religion department at the University of Johannesburg, Professor Farid Esack, as well as a PhD candidate in religious studies, Alex Abbasi. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Alex? Right, that's where we got to leave it for this hour. Remember, you have to stay tuned because just after the break we'll be back at the top of the hour with some more. There's a question that we posed to you. Let's see if we can get that question up. That relates to your medical health and especially private medical health care in this country. What do you make of the cost of it, and do you believe that private health care in South Africa is becoming unaffordable? That's the question we posed to you. Let us know on the Facebook page as well as on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom. Let's take a short break. Gentlemen, thank you.